They say soldiers know when a battle is coming, that the air shifts, that silence itself starts to sound different. I used to believe that. Not anymore. My war didn't come with gunfire. It started with a phone call, a call she never meant for me to hear. My name's Caleb Mason. I spent 23 years in uniform, 15 of those in combat zones where every shadow might carry death. I've buried brothers who call me family. And when I retired, I thought my war was over. I thought wrong. That night, I remember small things. The hum of the refrigerator, rain tapping against the windows, and how my wife, Anna, had smiled when she kissed me goodnight. She said she was tired, but around midnight, I heard her voice. Quiet, careful. I wasn't meant to hear that, either. At first, I thought she was talking in her sleep. Then I caught the tone, that soft, dangerous tone, the one women use when they think they're safe. I miss you, she whispered. Silence, not a pause, then a laugh. Too real, too gentle. I wish he wasn't home. I felt something inside me turn cold, like a sniper's breath before the shot. I listened. I counted seconds. I'll see you soon. I love you. She ended the call, and I laid there, eyes wide open, replaying every word. For 3 hours. By morning, I was a soldier again. Before I dive into my story, I want to know, where are you watching from today? And as you listen, let me know in the comments how this story makes you feel, or if you've ever experienced something similar. Your thoughts mean a lot to me, and I'd love to hear your perspective. I watched her. I studied her. Every smile, every move, every carefully arranged lie. She kissed me, poured my coffee, talked about groceries. And I listened, but this time like an enemy. I didn't confront her. Not yet. That's not how wars are won. You see, soldiers learn patience. Real patience. The kind that keeps you alive behind enemy lines for weeks at a time. Anna didn't know that. She'd married a man who would kill silently, who could vanish when needed. But she thought I was just Caleb, her tired old husband. She thought wrong. Over the next week, I built my perimeter. First, her phone. She never locked it. She trusted me. Another mistake. What I found wasn't just betrayal. It was an operation. A second life. Hundreds of messages. Thousands of photos. 10 years, 10 years. 10 years of her calling someone else my love. I saw hotel bookings, flights. Gifts she told me were from work. They weren't. I read about her weekends with the girls. She wasn't with the girls. She was with Daniel Carter, a name I recognized. Not from her life. From mine. Daniel Carter, the man who served under me. My soldier. My friend. I sat in the dark that night. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I planned. Because that's what soldiers do. The next morning, Anna laughed over breakfast. She showed me photos of a vacation she wanted. I smiled. I told her it sounded perfect. And I meant it. It would be perfect. Because I'd already decided. She wouldn't be coming back from that trip. Neither would Daniel. But unlike the battles I'd fought before, this one had to be quiet. Silent. Surgical. I wasn't going to use bullets. I was going to use the thing they never thought I had. Time. That's where my story begins. I'm Caleb Mason. And this isn't a love story. It's a story of how I burned down 2 lives using nothing but silence. And how, for the first time in my life, I enjoyed every second of the war. They say betrayal cuts deeper when it comes from someone you trusted with your life. But when it comes from the woman you built a life with, the woman who held your hand through deployments, wrote you letters in Kabul, and cried when you returned from Fallujah, that cut doesn't bleed. It festers. I spent the next week moving like a ghost. Anna didn't notice. That was the first clue I'd been gone from her world long before the phone call. She smiled the same way. She folded laundry, made dinner, and tapped away at her phone like it held her universe. It did that. I just wasn't in it. I began documenting everything. Day 1. She told me she had a staff meeting at 6. She left at 5:12. I followed. She didn't go to the office. She drove to a Hilton downtown. She didn't check in. She walked straight into room 416. I waited an hour. Then I watched her leave at 8:47. Lipstick smudged, hair tousled. I took pictures, not because I needed proof. I needed control. Day 3. She mentioned her friend Rachel from yoga. They were going to a wellness retreat in the Catskills next month. I smiled, told her to take the time. That night, I searched her laptop. The retreat was booked under Daniel's name. 2 tickets, King Suite. I laughed. It was short, dry, but it was a laugh. Daniel Carter. I trained that boy, took him through Fallujah, taught him how to shoot, how to clear rooms, how to survive. He cried in my arms when his squad leader died in Ghazni. He called me sir, even after he made sergeant. The last time I saw him, he'd left the military, said he wanted a quiet life, civilian work, marketing, maybe. I had no idea that quiet life involved screwing my wife in hotel rooms. But here we were. By the end of the week, I'd mapped out 10 years of deception. I found burner phones, hidden bank accounts, hotel rewards cards linked to her email. They even had a joint safety deposit box. She built an entire second life. Efficient, structured, just like a military op. She didn't just lie. She trained for it. But here's the thing they both forgot. I taught her how to think like this. I taught Daniel how to run missions. They weren't clever. They were students trying to outmaneuver their instructor. It took everything in me not to confront her. That's the part most people don't get. Revenge isn't fire. It's ice. You don't burn your enemy. You freeze them. You make them think everything's fine while the cold eats away at the foundations. So I kept smiling. I brought her flowers one day. Said I felt nostalgic. She cried. Told me I was the best man she'd ever known. Then she turned around and texted Daniel 5 minutes later. He's being sweet again. Guilt, maybe? I can't do this much longer. I want us. I read that 3 times. Then I deleted it from her phone and smiled. 2 weeks later, I started building my version of a plan. She'd booked that retreat for March 9th. I circled it on the calendar. The final mission. But I had to keep digging, point one wrong step, and they'd disappear. One flicker of suspicion, and they'd vanish like ghosts. Anna wasn't stupid. She just thought I needed to keep her busy. So I became the husband she thought she'd buried years ago. I fixed the leaky pipe in the garage. I repainted the deck that I cooked dinner, and poured wine, and acted like I still dreamed about her. Every move made her drop her guard further. And every night, while she slept, I backed up more data. Emails, transfers, even intimate photos she sent him, all stored on an encrypted drive, labeled Operation Frostbite. I was no longer Caleb, the retired vet. I was the mission commander. And this mission wasn't just about revenge. It was about reclaiming everything they took from me, my pride, my peace, and the years they made me feel like a fool. There was one moment, though, that nearly broke me. One night, I came home early. She didn't hear me. I heard her humming in the kitchen. I walked up behind her, and for a split second, just a second, I remembered loving her. Her hair tied up, that same humming she used to do when she waited for me to call from Baghdad. It hit me in the ribs, hard. But then I looked down, saw her phone light up. Miss you already. Counting down the days, Daniel. She smiled, and the memory shattered. She turned, saw me, and kissed my cheek. That was the night I realized something. I wasn't trying to get her back. I was preparing to bury her. Not with bullets, not with blood, with truth. The clock is ticking. They don't know it yet, but they've walked into the last mission I'll ever run. They think I'm soft. They think I'm old. They think I'm done. But I buried men stronger than Daniel with nothing but silence and time. Anna once told me I was the most patient man she'd ever known. She was right. And soon. She'll wish I wasn't. There's a special kind of clarity that comes when you know the war is already won. I wasn't rushing. I had weeks to watch them lie, love, and plan their little escape, oblivious to the noose tightening around their necks. They'd made it too easy, too perfect, a decade of betrayal cataloged with timestamps, images, travel receipts, pet names, nicknames, dreams they dare to speak only in digital whispers. Daniel Carter, the man who once said he'd take a bullet for me, now sent my wife voice messages in the middle of the night, saying he wanted to wake up to her every day. I didn't delete that one. I kept it, played it on repeat, once while I cleaned my rifle. Anna's retreat was their real honeymoon. She didn't know I had access to her flight information, or that I'd hacked her email weeks ago, or that I'd seen the booking for a private couples massage at 4 p.m. on the second day of the trip. They had planned it all down to the minute. And I smiled, because while she was busy dreaming of white robes and champagne, I was writing the first phase of Operation Frostbite. I wasn't going to expose her with yelling or public humiliation. No, that would be too simple. My revenge was going to be so thorough, so precise, that neither of them would recover. Not emotionally, not financially, not professionally. Daniel worked for a mid-sized security contractor out of D.C. I called in a few favors from my old network. Quietly, respectfully. By week's end, I had his personnel file, background checks, and most importantly, his client list. Turns out, Daniel had lied about more than just his affair. He'd forged a few clearances. Nothing that would trigger alarms in normal audits, but enough to be dangerous, especially to government clients. I made copies. I didn't plan to use them yet, but when the time came, I wanted to make sure Daniel didn't just lose Anna. I wanted him blacklisted from every job that ever required trust. Meanwhile, Anna was thriving in her deception. She started humming more, laughing more. She even cooked dinner 3 nights in a row. She thought she was in love. And maybe she was, I don't know. What I do know is that she still kissed me every morning, still wore the ring I gave her, still called me Cal. That made her betrayal worse. Not just the act, but the audacity of pretending I didn't know. That's what made me dangerous. They weren't just sleeping together. They were underestimating me. And that's the most lethal thing you can do to a man trained in survival. One evening, she brought up the trip again. I was thinking, she said over dinner, that maybe when I get back, we can start planning that Alaska cruise we always talked about. I looked up from my steak. Yeah. She smiled. I think we deserve something. Fresh. She had no idea. Fresh was exactly what I was planning. Fresh pain. Fresh regret. Fresh isolation. A week before the trip, I started setting the traps. First, I called our bank and opened a second joint account under a business name, a shell company I created years ago, just in case I ever needed to disappear. I slowly transferred $38,000 out of our shared savings. Not enough to raise alarms, but enough to cripple her when she found out later. Next, I altered the beneficiary details on our life insurance policy. Legally, I couldn't remove her name entirely, but I could redirect certain distributions. I added my sister's kids, my godson, a nonprofit for veterans. Anna, she now had the minimum allowed by law. And finally, I made a visit to a lawyer. I didn't ask for divorce papers. I asked for asset shielding, a legal maneuver to protect personal property from marital claims if dissolution occurred due to fraud or moral misconduct. It wouldn't hold forever, but I didn't need forever, just long enough to detonate their lives. 2 days before their trip, Anna came into the living room holding 2 wine glasses. She sat beside me on the couch, tucked her legs under her, and said, "I've been thinking about us lately." I turned. "Yeah, I know I haven't been present, and you've been patient. I just want to say thank you." She clinked her glass to mine. "For everything." I stared at her, at the woman I used to dream of coming home to, the woman who, somewhere along the way, left me, but kept wearing my name. "You're welcome," I said quietly. She leaned in and kissed me softly. I kissed her back, and then I told her I'd scheduled her car for maintenance the day before her flight. Oil change, new tires, the works. She beamed. "You're too good to me." I nodded. "You have no idea." The night before she left, I watched her pack. She was humming again. Folded lingerie, perfume, that dress she never wore around me anymore. She didn't see me standing in the doorway. Didn't hear me. That's when I realized she'd stopped seeing me years ago. Not because I changed, because she did. She just didn't have the guts to leave. So she stayed. Playhouse, played wife, and played me. But her little vacation was the final move. Once she left the house, I was done pretending. At 6:12 a.m., I loaded her suitcase into the trunk, kissed her cheek, told her to have a safe flight. She waved as she drove away. I watched until her car disappeared down the road. Then I walked back inside, locked the door, sat at the kitchen table, and picked up the burner phone I'd purchased 3 weeks ago. I dialed a number only 3 people on Earth knew. It rang once, twice, then a voice answered. "Sir, Operation Frostbite is green." I said, "Understood." I hung up, smiled, and opened the manila folder on the table. Inside, a printed flight itinerary for 2. One way, March 9th destination, hell. They say revenge is best served cold. I disagree. Revenge is best served unnoticed. Let them drink it like wine. Let them toast their future. Let them believe the world is finally bending in their favor. Then watch their hands tremble when they realize the wine was laced. Let them feel everything they made you feel, only slower, deeper, final, and aboard her flight at 9:26 a.m. I watched the plane lift into the clouds on a flight tracker app, sipping my coffee like it was any other day. By 2 p.m., she was in the arms of Daniel Carter. And by 4:15, I had already made 2 anonymous calls. The first went to the Department of Defense contractor Daniel worked for. The voice on the other end was stiff, professional, until I mentioned the phrase, false credentials on classified contracts. They didn't hang up. They asked for details. I gave them plenty. Dates, documents. The name of a forged clearance contact from Kabul in 2014, the one I knew Daniel had never actually met. Then I sent a secure email from a dummy account. Attached, 3 PDFs and a full timeline. The second call was shorter. It went to a local newspaper journalist I once protected on escort in Iraq. She owed me her life, literally. I told her I had a story that would rock a DC security firm to its core. She said she'd wait for my go. I told her to keep her engine warm, while Anna and Daniel enjoyed their retreat. I broke the first lockbox. It was hidden in a climate-controlled unit Anna had been renting under her maiden name, Clever, except the billing went to our joint account. Inside the box, I found the proof of everything. Photos of their trips. Receipts. A backup phone. One of the pictures was a Polaroid from 6 years ago. Anna, smiling, Daniel kissing her cheek. Her eyes closed, peaceful. She was wearing my dog tags. They'd taken them from my nightstand drawer before one of their weekend getaways. I didn't feel pain. I felt clarity. They were never sorry, only careful. Meanwhile, the real fun began. I had booked them a couple's massage, courtesy of my own credit card, using Daniel's name. But I also left a tip with the front desk, claiming I'd overheard them talking about taking something illegal across state lines. The hotel manager, a cautious man in his 50s, did what cautious men do when liability is mentioned. He called the police. They were searched. Nothing was found, of course. I wasn't stupid. But now there was a file, a note, a stain. Anna was furious. I knew she'd blame Daniel. He, in turn, would start to suspect someone was watching them. He'd be right, but too late. By the 3rd day of their trip, Daniel's phone was flagged by his company security team. They'd traced abnormal data activity to his personal cloud, because I had planted a few suspicious files using a cloned IP address. They locked him out his accounts, froze his access badges. A full audit was launched. The walls started to close. Anna didn't know any of this. She was too busy texting me photos of the mountains. "Wish you were here," she wrote. I texted back, "Me too." I meant it. I wished I could see her face when the next bomb dropped, because while they were sipping champagne by a fireplace, I walked into our lawyer's office and handed him a small drive. He opened the files in silence, messages, photos, bank logs, everything. 10 years, I said flatly. While I was deployed, while I was recovering from surgery, even while she cared for my dying father. The lawyer looked sick. "She ever sign a post-nup?" "She did," I replied. 2 years ago, after I had that cancer scare. He nodded slowly. "This changes everything. With this kind of proof, we can file for misconduct dissolution, immediate seizure of assets, and civil liability for fraud." I didn't smile. This wasn't about money. It was about turning her perfect world into an avalanche she couldn't outrun. That night, I called a retreat lodge, used a voice modulator. Told them I was Daniel Carter's employer and that he was under investigation for data theft. Asked them to inform him discreetly that he needed to report to D.C. immediately. They did. I know, because I listened to the call. Daniel went pale. Anna asked what was wrong. He lied, said it was a misunderstanding. But Anna knew Daniel couldn't lie well under pressure. She'd seen it in bed, in fights, in silence. Doubt began to seep into her smile. And when he stepped outside to take a second call, the one I had staged with a fake federal agent, she searched his bag, found burner phones, receipts, notes, even a picture of herself sleeping. She didn't know it yet. But I'd made a duplicate of that same photo and tucked it into the safe deposit box back home, the one only I had a key to. Anna left the lodge that night, took a cab to the airport, and booked a standby seat on the next flight back. She called me 3 times. I didn't answer. Then she texted, "Caleb, please. Something's happening. I think Daniel's dangerous. I'm scared." I stared at that message for a long, long time. Then I set my phone down and whispered to the dark kitchen, "You should be." By the time Anna arrived home, the house was empty, not of furniture, of me. My closet, cleaned out the MY tools, gone MY photos, taken down. In the living room, I'd left a single envelope on the table. Inside, one photo, the Polaroid, her Daniel them white dog tags. And on the back, I'd written one sentence: "You never knew the man you betrayed. They say the worst prison is the one built with your own hands." Anna didn't sleep the first night. She came back. I know, because I was parked across the street, watching the bedroom lights stay on till dawn. She walked room to room, looking for me, calling my name, checking drawers, closets, cabinets. Nothing, just echoes. And that one photo, the Polaroid that once made her smile, now stared at her like a death sentence. She was finally alone, the kind of alone she had earned. She texted me again, then again, then again. "Please, Caleb, talk to me. I didn't know it would go this far. He's dangerous." I was confused. "Come home." I didn't answer. I didn't need to. She wasn't talking to me. She was talking to the version of me she thought she still controlled. That man was dead. The man who stayed up nights pacing during PTSD episodes while she was in a hotel with my former subordinate. He was gone. The man who forgave her when she forgot anniversaries, who believed her when she said she needed space. He'd been buried quietly, and she never even sent flowers. 2 days later, the cracks spread fast. Daniel's face showed up in a national security newsletter. Private defense contractor under investigation for credential fraud. His company released a statement distancing themselves, and the audit found that 2 of his past missions were improperly billed. They froze his assets, pulled his security clearance. Federal agents raided his home. Anna saw it all unfold. On the couch in our living room, her hair a mess, phone shaking in her hand. She tried to call him. The number was disconnected. She tried again, straight to voicemail. The next morning, she called my sister. "I think something terrible has happened. Caleb left. I don't know where he is. Daniel's missing. They were both in the military. I think Caleb might have done something." My sister's response? "Good." Then she hung up. By the end of the week, I sent her a package. No return address. Inside, a burned CD label for the lies you lived. No note, just footage. Clips I had compiled from hotel security cams, parking garage feeds, restaurant reservations, all synced and time-stamped. It played like a documentary. 10 years and 18 minutes. Affairs, lies, gifts, laughter, a highlight reel of betrayal. The final frame, the Polaroid again. She watched it, I'm told, twice. Then she vomited in the sink. Daniel tried to run, but he didn't know I had already turned over his flight records and rental cars to feds. They caught him trying to leave Virginia in a borrowed SUV. 2 forged IDs in the glove box. 2 unregistered phones. And a note in the trunk with a hotel address and the phrase, "Start over." He won't be starting anything. His court date is pending. And I made sure Anna's name was listed in every exhibit as a cooperative beneficiary. She wasn't charged, but she was named. By the time the story hit the internet, her employer issued a statement. She was relieved of duties effective immediately. When I finally called her, just once, it was 3 a.m., she answered with a gasp. "Caleb." I didn't respond. Just let her breathe. "Please," she said, choking. "Just tell me why. Why you're doing this." I waited, then said one sentence. "Because you left me for dead." And I decided to wake up. She started crying. "I made a mistake. He lied to me. He said you cheated first. He told me you chose him." I said, "Every time. For 10 years. I didn't think you knew." "That's the problem," I said. I hung up. That was the last time I spoke to her. They say revenge doesn't bring peace. Maybe that's true for some people. But I'll tell you what it does bring. Silence. A silence that settles deep in your bones. A silence that whispers, "You're no longer the fool." A silence that says, "They'll never forget what you became." I moved to a quiet place in North Carolina. Somewhere with trees and rivers and no memories. I didn't change my name. Didn't have to. They buried themselves. Anna sold the house 6 months later. Alone. Word got around she'd filed for bankruptcy. She tried contacting a few old friends. They didn't respond. Daniel, still facing charges. Some say he's working plea deals. Others say he won't last in prison. I don't really care. The mission is complete. There's one last thing. The dog tags she wore in that photo, I mailed them back. No note, just metal. Bent slightly, edges scarred. She knew exactly what it meant. You don't wear the symbol of a soldier unless you understand the cost. She never did, but now she pays for it every single day. It's been 13 months. I don't count the days anymore. At first I did. The soldier in me still kept a mental log. How long since the last battle? How many steps between recon and execution? But revenge has a strange side effect. Once the fire's out, you stop needing to measure the heat. You just enjoy the quiet. I live by a river now, and no neighbors, and no traffic. Just the sound of water and wind slicing through trees. I built a small cabin myself. Nothing fancy, 1 bedroom, 1 desk, 1 with stove. No photos on the walls. No trace of Anna. Just scars. And a heavy peace. Some nights, I lie awake wondering if she still dreams about him. Daniel Carter. The man who thought he could replace me. The man I once trained. Once trusted. Last I heard, he took a plea deal. Federal time, minimum security, 5 years. But he won't serve all of it. Doesn't matter. His career's dead, his reputation burned. His bank account's drained by the restitution order. I didn't even have to speak in court. The paper trail, I built it all the talking. Ironic, really. I'd trained him to wage war. Taught him precision, caution, how to move without sound. But he never understood the discipline of silence. The most lethal thing about a soldier isn't his weapon. It's his patience. Anna tried to rebuild. She applied for work in 3 states. Each time, her references dried up. The Google results followed her like ghosts. And the men she once charmed, they didn't return calls. She reached out once. An email with no subject line. Just 2 words. "I'm sorry." I didn't reply. Forgiveness isn't a gift I hand out to those who use love like a knife. She knew what she was doing. She made the decision every day for a decade. That's not a mistake. That's a lifestyle. People ask, though not often, what I gained from it all. Justice, closure? No, I gained something simpler. Truth. The truth that I didn't fail her. She failed herself. The truth that I'm not weak for loving someone fully. She's weak for betraying it. And above all, the truth that some wars aren't about winning. They're about reminding your enemies that you still know how to fight. One time, years ago, a young soldier asked me, "What happens when you come home, sir?" I didn't have a good answer back then. Now I do. Sometimes you come home to find the enemy was inside your walls the whole time. Sometimes you realize the battlefield never ends. It just changes shape. And sometimes you burn everything down to feel warm again. I leave my story here, not for pity, not even for warning, but as a salute to the man I used to be, to the man I became, and to the woman who taught me both were dangerous. If you're reading this, if you've been betrayed, don't rush your rage. Don't scream. Don't beg. Build. Document. Plan. Wait. And when the time is right, Don't just break them. Erase them. Erase the version of yourself they thought they controlled. Because the deadliest revenge is to walk away from the ruins and not look back.